Welcome to Through the Fear, the podcast that reminds you life begins where fear ends. Here, we share the stories of everyday people who faced their fears and discovered the incredible strength that lies on the other side. Brought to you by Wolf Mindset, this is more than a podcast. It's an invitation to find your courage, your purpose, and maybe even your path. This is Through the Fear. Let's take the journey together to fear less, live more.
Welcome, Terry, to Through the Fear podcast. It's wonderful to have you on as a guest. Just to let the listeners know where we connected, I was looking for amazing podcast guests, and your story is inspiring, an emotive journey that you've been on, and I really couldn't wait to speak to you. So I'm glad that this day has finally arrived. But I'm going to go straight into this, Terry. So, Terry, just for the listeners, just introduce yourself, and then I'll ask why you're here.
Sure. Well, first of all, Ian, thanks for having me on. I'm really looking forward to this as well. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'll give you a little bit of my background. I was born on the south side of Chicago, one of the larger cities here in the United States. I'm the oldest of three boys. You can't tell this from looking at me or from my voice, but I'm 6'8" tall. And I actually went to college on a basketball scholarship, despite having 3 knee surgeries in high
Wow.
school. After college, I moved home to find a job. I'm really going to date myself now, but this was long before the internet was available to help people find employment. Fortunately, I found that first job in the marketing department at the corporate headquarters of Wears. We have one child, a daughter, who's a graduate of the United States Air Force Academy and is an officer in the new branch of the military here in the U.S., the Space Force.
Wow, that is. I know there's a subject that we're going to be talking about here today, but it seems like we've got a couple of books right there that you could write, Terry. Wow.
Yeah.
I probably will edit this out, Terry, because I don't tell people I have a different persona, but I am also in the police in the UK. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So I'm a detective.
How long have you been doing
22
that?
years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good
I
for
think
you.
they have a different service length in America because I had a couple of NYPD buddies and they do 20 years or 22 years and then full retirement. So, yeah, they make us work to 40 odd years, 30 to 40 years here.
Well, you got more experience, you can bring more things to the job and stuff like that when you have that experience. So, I mean, I can see that, but yeah, 20 years and then you get out, you get a retirement. It's kind of like being a
Yeah, it's great. It is a great job. He's certainly got some stories. So,
Sure.
Terry, this podcast is called Through the Fear, and it's to inspire those who are stuck in a state of fear. So, I always think that one of the things that stop us from achieving our dreams or hold us back in life is fear. And you haven't let that hold you back. And I was going to talk about one subject, but it seems like you haven't let it hold you back in any area of your life, from sport, from your job to your life. Is that right?
I would say it is. I think I probably agree with you. I think fear is probably one of the biggest things that holds people from doing what they want, what they should, what they feel they're supposed to do in life. And I'll be honest with you. I wrote a book, and it's called 10 Principles to Leading Your Uncommon and Extraordinary Life. It's called Sustainable Excellence in that. But one of the principles is that most people think with their fears and their insecurity, maybe I don't have all the information, or maybe I'm not smart enough, or what will people say about me if I didn't do it? Because at the end of your life, the things you're going to regret are not going to be those things you did. They're going to be those things you didn't do. And it's going to be too late to go back and do them. So, yeah, I think looking back on my life, I've never really thought about it the way you asked that question. But yeah, I've never let things stop me. I've been afraid a lot, don't get me wrong, but I've never let fear say, don't see what happens.
Absolutely. I think a lot of youngsters, and it's good you point that out, youngsters have a fear of failure. They have a fear of other people's opinions, and they stop that letting them live their life. And Les Brown said it great. Imagine being on your deathbed and all your dreams are standing around your deathbed saying, only you could have brought us to life. That kind of mentality where you've got to just live your life without being held back. Yeah.
Because they're rich and businesses never started, relationships never pursued, books never written. When it's your time to go, don't have any of those regrets. Don't go to the cemetery saying, gee, I wish I would have asked that person out on a date, or I wish I would have gotten involved with that company, or I wish I would have written that book. I remember hearing a statistic, and this is just in America, but 83% of Americans felt that they had a book inside them, whether it was a memoir or a self-help or just some kind of fiction book. And Ian, less than 1% of those people will ever write and
Yeah.
do it. You may be terrible at it, but at the same time, you may be great at it. And maybe that's what you're going to do with the rest of your life. Try new things. That's the only way you grow.
Either overcome it or go through it. So yeah, wonderful. So Terry, in 2012 something happened, and are you happy to share? You're here on the podcast, and it sounds a pretty amazing
Yeah.
event. Yeah, just tell us how'd it go?
Sure. So 2012, I'm a girls' high school basketball coach in Texas. And I have a callus break open on the bottom of my left foot, right below my third toe. And initially don't think much of it because as a coach, you're on your feet a lot. But after it not healing for a few weeks, I made an appointment and went to see a podiatrist, a foot doctor friend of mine. And he took an x-ray and he said, Jerry, I think you have a cyst in there and I can cut it out. And he did. And he showed it to me. It was just a little gelatin sack with some white fat in it. No dark spots, no blood, nothing that gave either one of us concern. But fortunately or unfortunately, he sent it off to pathology to have it looked at. And then 2 weeks later, I get the call from him. And as I said, he's a friend of mine. And the more difficulty he's having explaining to me what's going on, the more frightened I am becoming. And so finally, he just lays it out for me. He said, Terry, I've been a doctor for 25 years, and I have never seen the form of cancer you have. You have an incredibly rare form of melanoma. And most people think of melanoma as too much exposure to the sun, affects the melanin, the pigment in our skin. Mine has nothing to do with sun exposure. It's a rare form that appears on the bottom of the feet or the palms of the hands. And that started my 13-year odyssey through this disease.
13 years. Wow. And this is really important for people to be listening to get these things checked out as well, isn't it? So well done for getting it checked out.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't wait months to get it checked out. I mean, I did, it happened. I waited a couple of weeks to see if it would heal. It did not. And when I was diagnosed, I mean, the first thing they did was remove a big hunk of the bottom of my foot and all the lymph nodes in my groin. And then, Ian, I remember they looked at me and they said, well, more than likely you'll be dead in 2 years. We have nothing to offer you. All we have is surgery. If it's somewhere we can cut it out, we will cut it out. Otherwise, we have nothing. And I thought, well, you gave me a death sentence. Maybe I can try to turn that death sentence into a life sentence. And like I said, a little over 13 years now, I've been still trucking along.
Mate, that is, you are amazing. You are amazing. So when he said you got 2 years, was that in 2012 as well? Or was that a little bit later? In 2012?
No, that was 2012.
And they took a chunk of your foot, and then when they said you got 2 years, you said, I'm going to make this not a death sentence, but a life sentence. Was there a period in your mind? I'm going to ask some personal questions. I hope that's okay, Terry. But
sure, absolutely. You can ask me anything you like.
Did you go through stages, or did you just decide then and there? Or how did it make you feel initially? What was your initial sort of stage that you went through after hearing something that drastic?
Yeah, I know I went through all the stages that we would associate being healthy. And so first it was denial. I can't possibly have cancer. I've done everything right in my life. And then I got angry.
Yeah.
It's
not fair. It's not fair. Why me? I'm healthy. Yeah. I'm a basketball coach.
Well, exactly. And so I was like, I can't possibly have this disease. And then there was sort of a bargaining with God. I have a very strong faith in God. And our daughter was in high school when I was diagnosed. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to die, at a very critical time in her life and a critical time in her development. So there was sort of a bargaining. Please, God, let me live long enough to suck. I do not like the cards that I've been dealt, but I'm going to have to play these cards to the best of my ability. And that's what I've been trying to do, like I said, for the last 13 years or so.
Wow. Did you feel a turning point when you went to that mindset, or did it come gradually? Was there a big event in life when actually I've got to live this life, or was it gradual?
Yeah, I mean, there was, there was all kinds of testing
Yeah.
me that whatever God is trying to work through me. And I've always said I've probably done more living in the 13 years that I've been dying of cancer than I've done in my entire life. And you heard my resume. I mean, I've done some
Yeah.
pretty fun things as I was growing up. But this is, in my mind, God using my infirmity, using my malignancy, using this cancer to show people his love, mercy, grace, peace, and healing. So I just kind of feel like this is something bigger than me. And when you kind of get outside yourself, that,
That's some wonderful reframe comments you made there. One is, these are the cards I've got and I'm going to play them. And the other is, you said people would often say, why me? But just about, why not? Actually, why not me? Could be anybody, couldn't it? But just to
right.
not, I think what you've touched on there, Terry, is I'm not the victim of this. Why me is a victim mentality, and people keep hold of that for many years. So do
Right.
you think, could you imagine if you went depressed and why me? And 12 years, you've done amazing, but could you imagine being miserable about it for 12 years? You could have just been angry with the world for all this time. Yeah.
Cancer patients, and they've never accepted their disease. They've never accepted where they are in life. They've never sought. They've never looked at their disease as, how can I turn this into something positive?
Yeah.
And it's always negative. It's, why me? Why did I get this? I did, and and those are what I refer to as energy
Yeah.
suckers. They suck the energy.
I call them
being around
I
those
call them
people.
energy
Yeah,
vampires.
yeah, exactly. Same thing. Yes. And it's like, I don't want to be around you. I would like to be part of your life because maybe we could help each other. But if you're going to suck the energy out of me, there's some people you just have to distance if
Yeah.
participant in my healthcare. I want to work with my doctors to do this. I just don't want to rely on what somebody in a white coat with a bunch of initials after their name
Yeah.
said.
So they've said this is your diet, you've got 2 years. Do you think you've done amazingly well? Do you think that's to do with mindset or a change in health and diet? How you've done so well? What do you think has caused that?
Well, the first thing they did, because there was no treatment, was they put me on this drug called interferon. And they told me, this is not a cure. All this is we're trying to kick the can down the road and buy you more time for therapies to be developed. And therapies certainly have been developed during my 13-year journey through this. But I took a weekly interferon injection. And the interferon, the side effects were that it gave me severe flu like symptoms for 2 to 3 days every week after each injection. And I took those weekly injections for almost 5 years. So imagine having a terrible case of the flu every week for 5 years and knowing that's not a cure. You're just trying to buy time. And Ian, I was absolutely in a state of, I prayed to die. I was so sick of being sick. I was like, look, God, just take me out of this. Let my family get on with their lives. And I don't want to be part of this. I felt there were sort of two camps. There was the living and the not dying. And I was in the not dying camp. I didn't think I was living. I mean, sometimes a good day for me was literally, I can get out of bed and I can make it to the couch. That's a good day. It's a win and that kind of stuff. But I didn't feel I was living. I wasn't contributing to the family. I wasn't working. It was literally just a survival mode. If you would ask me then what my goals were, I'd be like, just to live today. I have no goals beyond today. I mean, if I wake up tomorrow morning, I'll try to live tomorrow as well. But there were no goals or anything like that. So, I just wasn't, I wasn't in that kind of mindset. I mean, it got me to a point where, well, I've lived. And, like I said, I asked God to die. God didn't take me, obviously. But I think what God did was give me the strength to literally just say, you got today. That's all I'm giving you. We'll see what happens tomorrow. And I was more of a, what am I going to do 5 years from now? What am I going to do 10 years? I was more of a living out in the future somewhere. And I think this was a way of God of saying, no, you're living just day to day. And for me, that was like, if I can live day to day for 5 years, man, I can do pretty much just about
Yeah.
anything.
Wow. So after the treatment, what was the next stage? So after going through that treatment, which made you feel fluey, was there anything else that then got better or worse?
Yeah, so eventually this interference air unit of the hospital with a body temperature of 108 degrees, which is usually not compatible with being
No.
alive. Somehow yeah, I don't know how I survived that, but I did. And so they were like, you can't take this drug anymore. It's too toxic to your body. And so they put me on what we know now as immunotherapy drugs, where they engage your own immune system to help you fight the disease. They did not work. The drug combination they gave me did not work. And so in 2018, I had to have my left foot amputated because that was the only option. The disease worked its way up my leg. In 2019, I had 2 more surgeries on my shin. And then in 2020, an undiagnosed tumor kind of at the end of my leg grew large enough that it fractured my tibia. It broke my leg. And in the middle of the COVID pandemic, I had to have my left leg amputated above the knee. And I found out I had tumors in my lungs, which I still do. I still have tumors in my lungs. I'm still treated for those tumors as well. So it's just been a constant progression. It's one thing after another. Those 13 years have never been, well, that there was a 5-year period where I was, in remission, or, the disease was not present. It's always been something. And it's just been one thing after another. And like I said, I think the 5 years on interferon, the living day to day, really kind of prepared me for these things as they've come down the pike one after another.
Terry, I'm gonna say that you are one of the toughest blokes I've ever met. Now, I take my hat off to you, mate. This resilience that you've got, um, I think even if you're depressed, people could still fight through it. But you've done it with such class, if I could say. You've still lived life fully. Where do you think that's come from? Is that something you adapted yourself? What, did you have an upbringing which was quite, let's get on with it? What did you ever think about, oh, actually, I'm a pretty tough cookie, and I wonder where that was created?
No, I don't think I'm that tough. I mean, I look back on it and I hear people talk about it. It's like, yeah, I guess if I knew somebody like that, I would probably say they're a tough individual. I don't think I'm tough. I mean, when I'm treated for my tumors that I have in my lungs, I'm on a clinical trial now. Every time I have the drug, I shake, I
Yeah,
cry. I do all that. I don't want anybody to think that I don't have
yeah,
horrible days. But I find when I'm in those days, I'm looking inward. I'm looking at, woe is me. Look how bad things are. And I find a really simple way to turn that
yeah,
around is to go connect with somebody else, to go call one of the people I know who has cancer, to sit in the waiting room waiting to get treated and see somebody come in and sit down in a chair with that sort of deer in headlights look. It's their first time there. They're scared. They're nervous. Is this going to work? Is it going to hurt? Am I going to die? All the questions that are going through their mind, and just wheel up to them in my wheelchair and say, hi, I'm
yeah,
Terry. What's your name? And it's just another person seeing another person. I'm just not a number. I'm not a cancer patient. I'm a person. And there's a professor here in Chicago, the University of Chicago, a psychology professor who does this experiment with his students. And I think it's kind of interesting. And the idea is you go out, you get on a bus, and in 3 questions, you try to get deep with somebody. So you sit down next to somebody, hey, how you doing? I'm fine. How are you? Question 1. And I'm just making this up. Question 2, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm a doctor. Okay. Question 3, have you always wanted to be a doctor? Ian, it doesn't matter what they tell you. They could say, no, I grew up on a farm and I wanted to be a veterinarian, or, my mother was a doctor, but died of breast cancer when she was 40, and I'm honoring her memory by being a doctor. Whatever they tell you, they're telling you their why, their purpose, their meet
yeah,
with people. And having those connections, having those relationships, they are so much more important to me now than how much money I made, or how high I went in the police department, or none of that matters. 100 years from now, nobody's going to know that I was even on this planet, and that's fine with me. But what I want now, I want those connections with other humans all
yeah.
about right now.
You've said it wonderfully. I would say, Terry, you saying that you have a bad day, you get depressed, you cry. I still think that makes a resilient person, but to say, I think some people want this presentation to the world. Either I'm super strong and nothing affects me, or I'm upset and I want everybody to see that so I can have their energy, and they feed on it. I think the way you've described it is wonderful, which is, look, this is how my mindset is. This is how I got through it. Connection is a powerful thing. Meeting other people is wonderful. I have bad days. So if somebody's listening to this, you're not expected to be Superman. You're not expected to go, I've got this, and now I'm supposed to suddenly have every day blissful with a strong mind. It's good to sometimes get that emotion, let it do its thing. It's not living in there. It's where you want to live, where you want to call your home, really, isn't it? When it comes to that emotion and managing it. So when it comes to those that you see, Terry, who are in a similar position, have you managed to help anybody else think differently, or have you ever come across someone who you've done your best and they're going, no, I'm staying in this world?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there have been a lot of people, like I said, I was told I would be dead in 2 years. And I could have taken that and said, okay, I'm going to be dead in 2 years, but I didn't take that. And I think